All right, thank you so much for having us, guys. Marc Fonzetti. I have been in and out of these rooms in the last 12 plus years, even before it was officially called Brand Innovators. It's one of the first OGs, as they say. I've been good friends with Marc and Brandon for a long time, and I was usually the brand guy. I used to run marketing, media, strategy, and investment for Verizon, Reckitt Benckiser before that, and now I've started a new company called Scuti, and we're an e-commerce platform that launches out of the video game ecosystem. So we're actually opening up the video game ecosystem to brands for the first time ever at scale. But today's not about me. It is about Yeti and Stagwell. So I would like to introduce Robin next, and then we'll go to Paulie.
Hi everyone, I'm Robin Freye. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Stagwell. I work with a lot of you. For those of you that aren't familiar, we're a marketing network. 70 agencies, 72 and Sunny, Anomaly, Code and Theory, YML. Work across a lot of brands, even with Yeti.
Hi, I'm Paulie. CMO at Yeti. Prior to that, I was at Uber, which was fun times. And prior to that, I was with Robin at RGA, which was a lot of fun in New York. And we set up down here, which was fun. And it's good to be back in Austin full time.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to get us started, and then we're going to try to leave a little bit of time for some Q&A, because we should have some good answers coming out of this crew. So, Paulie, I recently read an article, How Yeti is Keeping It Cool in the Age of Disruption. So I'd love you to talk about that a little bit more. And,
I love a good pun in a headline.
Tell me about it, brother.
With the love a pun, don't hate the pun. How are we keeping it cool in the age of disruption? It's a good question. So I think the thing that we always think about at Yeti is we are a cult brand, and we're really sensitive about that. We don't want to be a fad brand, and that's probably what keeps me up the most at night. We don't want to chase the quick buck. The brand's very hot. We don't want to juice it to a place that isn't sustainable. And I think that's the key moment for us, which is different to when I was in the Valley, when all you're trying to do is just go, right? They just want you to go with the brand, and it's growth at all costs. It's the opposite with Yeti. We're trying to sustain it for 200 years, not 2. And so I see my job as a caretaker of the brand. And what that means is it's slow and low, right? You just, it's all about the brand. Nothing comes before it, even where we show up, right? Now retailers, we're not in Walmart, we're not in Target, we never probably, I can't see us being there anytime soon. Mm-hmm. We have to show up appropriately, and we're in no rush. So celebrities, for example, love Yeti, and that's amazing. I love seeing Kim Kardashian use our coolers and stuff. But we're not seeding that, right? We're not sending her stuff and please tag us in a photo, and it's not our game, and it's not sustainable for the brand. We have ambassadors who are the best of what they do in the outdoors, and they love the brand, but we don't put in their contract that they have to post or they have to tweet. They represent the brand because they want to, and that keeps us where we want to be. So I think the key to staying cool in age of disruption, whatever you want to call it, is not rushing. We take it real slow, and a quick buck, it might be a quick buck, but it mightn't come back in 2 years' time, and that's a problem for us.
Yeah, it's about keeping it authentic, right? Keep it real.
Keep it real.
Yeah. So, Robin, same question to you. You represent some amazing brands, and a couple come to my mind, but I don't want to speak for you. But I'd love to hear your response to the same question.
Yeah, and I think that Paulie, something that I really admire about the Yeti brand is how you foster a community. Right, and you're really doubling down on the community, and we see that with a lot of our brands as well. So 3 years ago, we were assigned Chipotle's business, right, as their CRM and loyalty agency of record. And when we took on that business, their loyalty program at the time only had, I think, about 5 million people. Since then, and really because of COVID, we've grown that program to over 25 million people. And we look at that program as now we are the community, agency of record. But with that, it's all about authenticity, right? And it's about community. And one of our highest performing, and that's a lot of content when you have 25 million people and you're looking at, personalization and customization. But one of the things that comes to my mind, thinking about authenticity is, we went out to a shoot, right? We went to go interview farmers. And so we went to the avocado farm, and we went to the tomato farm. We even went to a cilantro farm, I think it was. And we were supposed to be shooting the product. And what we found is we started to interview the farmers. And when we were starting to interview the farmers, they started thanking us, right? Like, thank you so much for all of this business. And we put that on social, right, as a thank you. And it ended up being like the highest performing asset that we had ever done because it was just authentic, right? It was just like genuine, authentic content that really resonated. So talk about doubling down on community.
So community is really the core of Yeti and Yeti marketing. How we started, we started in the fish space, right? The cooler was really useful for people who loved fishing because you could stay out and fish longer. Very simple story. But what we built was a community of fishing guides and the local, fish experts in the area. We really just focused all our attention on them and building support in that community. I always say we're here to support a community, not sponsor a community, and it's really held us true. But we spent a lot, like years, just in this fish community, fishing guides, and it built enormous credibility for the brand because anyone who came to fish with these experts saw the Yeti stuff and thought, well, it's this or nothing, right? And that credibility permeated. And so we stayed really true to that community. Then what happened, we started to see the product pop up in other places. We started to see it on mountains, we started to see it in ranching, and more recently we've seen it on the coast with surf and skate. So we always say we follow the tracks. When a community embraces our brand and our product, we will then follow and chat to them and start to think about becoming more involved. But we won't force it, right? So we wouldn't go, there's probably a time a few years ago we're like, wow, we would love the coast, right? That's beaches, the bottles, be incredible, let's go, That's not how we did it. We waited for the surf community to start using our product, start embracing it. We started to see it pop up. Then we cultivated it and started talking to people, started showing up at events. Very slow. It's very slow. And that's what I think people react to. They know that if we've turned up, we haven't just cut a check and we want to be here because we think it might be good for sales. They know we're there the right way. And that community, we then get very deep in before we do anything. So we go super deep. Before we go wide, we tell stories about that community that we feel need to be told, support that community however we can, and that's the credibility we get with those people. So it's a self-fulfilling circle because then other people see your stories about that community and take the product and enter it into a new community, and then you start again.
Yeah, having a virtuous circle for any business is not a bad thing. So you just gave me a good softball. So you talked about how the product was, becoming the it in different categories, if you will. But when I look at Yeti, it's almost flipped now. Like the brand, it's all about the brand, and that's what's keeping people excited about the product because you've kept it cult, you've kept it authentic. It's not just the the fishing cooler anymore. Yeah. It's so much other stuff, but you're cultivating the brand in a beautiful way. So can you share some secrets?
Yeah, and there's probably two things, a bit what I touched on earlier. I think the brand is going places, but we're not pushing it to those places. If it ends up there, fantastic, but we're staying pretty core with who we are, and that's important. And then the product, look, it's always great when you work on a brand where the product is unbeatable, makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah.
But really, in the early days, it was about it's a $400 square piece of plastic, right? Base value. It's an expensive cooler that when the average price around $89. So what we really focused on was, can we arm people to defend that purchase? Because what would happen, especially in the coastal fishing areas, and $400 is a lot of money. This isn't the Hamptons. And they would get questions like, oh, you bought a $400 cooler, you crazy? And so the marketing was really, how do we arm the people who had purchased a Yeti to defend the purchase? Yeah. And what that ended up being was, a lot of product feature, like defend the product, defend the product, defend the product, which was really great in convincing people that, maybe I should. So it was about arming people to defend the product. Once we had that footing of the product being so strong, it then was all about the lifestyle, right? If you had this cooler, it was more than just an incredibly functional equipment. It was, you'd let your mind kind of get to a place where you always want to be. And that lifestyle is amazing and super appealing. And so a Yeti, the brand mark, became kind of like a wink and a smile to that lifestyle I would like a piece of. So the product punched a hole. The product's undefeated. We armed people to defend it. And then our stories carried the lure of the brand.
You've made it aspirational. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So, Robin, same question to you. You have mega brands within your holding company: Google, Chipotle, Uber.
Yeah.
Some probably operate this way, and some almost in reverse. So,
Yeah, and it's super.
What do you
Full
got?
disclosure: Paulie was also when he was at Uber, he was our client, right? And I just think how opposite, these strategies are, because with Uber, it's the product is really first, and now what they're trying to do is really go back and create this brand. And that's not an easy task when you've been focused on the product, for the whole trajectory. And, a lot of that, we represent Google's product and enterprise team as well. I don't know if anyone was at the Super Bowl, but Adrienne Lofton, who is our client, spoke a lot about this. And she's coming in and hiring a complete marketing team to really just focus on brand.
Yeah.
Right? Because consumers expect it now.
Well, you also become a commodity real quick if all you're doing is product. Look, there is our products. I think you could probably copy tomorrow. There's a lot of copycats out there. So how do you defend that? You defend it with brand. What do you stand for? Where do you show up? What do you do? What stories are you proud of? How do you conduct yourself? That's all brand. And you can't cut a check for that real quick. It takes time, commitment, and a genuine ethos throughout the building. So when I think of my Uber days, even the product storytelling kind of wasn't great. The product does a lot, actually. It actually puts a lot of meals on people's table who are driving, and there are great features, but they never really talked about because they were just focused on growth, right? And I think that's why some of the drama happened, was because brand is heat shield. That's all it is to me. When drama hits, your brand is heat shield. And there was no heat shield. There was no brand. So when drama occurs, you're fully exposed and you've got no friends. I think very lucky at Yeti, we've got a lot of loyal fans and ambassadors because the brand's strong. And if a competitor turns up to town, you've turned up to a family function, and you're not going to be super welcome to a family function. And that's brand. That's all it is. Heat shield, protection, defense against becoming commoditized from a competitor.
All right, so that sets me up great for my next question. So I love this, how organic one of these it's not always this flow. So you've talked a lot
early in the morning,
or this early,
after daylight
so thank you again,
savings,
everyone, for being with us and being
late
awake
at night.
So you've talked about a lot of the successes. I think in my career, a lot of successes, but I screwed up a lot of things. But that's what I learned the most from. So is there anything that you're not too embarrassed maybe to share about at Yeti, or maybe in a past life, Paulie, that maybe didn't work so well, that you tried, that you were willing to bet a buck on it, but you learned something from it?
Yeah, I think the failure comes from trying to push a business that isn't ready for it. You're never going to win, no matter how good you are, no matter how good the agency you hire is, no matter how big your budget is. So for me, it's making a bet with the right partners of the business. So I look at a CEO who understands brand, right, and who isn't willing to sacrifice anything at the expense of the brand. And that's huge. But that's because we understand the value of a sticker being worth $400 on a cooler. So that's probably where mistakes are made. I think coming in and thinking you're going to be this revolutionary marketer that is going to make your board wake up one day and say, I've been doing it all wrong. You're right. I always say, is the body ready for the organ, or is it going to reject it?
I like that.
And early on in my career, it was about setting up internal agencies in brands. And often what big brands will do, they'll go hire the best creative. Like, wow, this person just won a ton of awards. Let's go hire that person, will be amazing. That is the last organ like a Walmart needs. It needs someone with acumen and how to convince people to come with you, all that stuff. So in terms of failures, I'd like to think there weren't too many. We had some good years at RGA.
did.
When we failed, we won. But I think coming in and thinking you can change the world if no one else is thinking the way you're thinking, that is extremely tough, and I'd be cautious of it.
And I would say with experimenting too, and I'm just thinking of failures, but failures are also learning. So, during COVID, we launched Quibi. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember Quibi, and that's a case study that we're actually proud of and is on one of our agency's websites, because there was a lot of things that we learned in there. But I think scenario-based planning, it's kind of, we were talking about our kids earlier right before this, but like a game that I play with my little daughter is, like what if and then what? And so before you kind of like go out into the market and you're going to be doing some stuff, it's like get a group of people in the room and do scenario-based planning. It's what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens, and then what, and then what, and then what.
I think that's spot on too. Back agency days, you're always trying to push your client, right? You're trying to push the brand into different things for purely selfish reasons a lot of the time. I want to do something fun. I want to spend your money, right? That'd be great. And I think that is failure for an agency, and it's failure for a brand, because you have to understand the brand you're on. And what I mean by that is not just understand the tone and the brand book, but the business. How do you guys make money? What are the pressures? What are the competitors? And I think not spending time there and just focusing on a shiny win is a huge, quick roadmap for failure for both partners, because the brand people go, okay, you clearly don't care about the brand, you're just interested in the work. And the agency turns around and says, you guys are idiots, you don't understand what good work is, why don't you let us do great work? And it's just this horrible relationship. So I think agency side failures were, I would say, an ignorance to the business and a respect for the business and what it takes. Like at Yeti, when I joined, yeah, of course I wanted to do crazy RGA-ish ideas, and the metaverse and all this stuff. It's just not the brand. And it's not where it lives, and it's not what it is. And you have to understand that, respect it, and work within those parameters, or you're going to fail. Yeah.
So, kind of taking what you said, some brands just like run after the moment. It's the shiny thing, or it's what's hot, or it's everyone's talking about, and they kind of screw that up, right? So how have you captured any, I'll call it, relevant cultural moments, and seem to be a leader versus a copycat? Because I see a lot of Yeti copycats, and that's a big compliment. But you also don't fall in that trap because someone else did something great and you're trying to replicate it. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think same to you, Robin.
I think it's fair. We're absolutely not interested in chasing a relevant cultural moment. It's what I was talking about. It's a quick win with no substance. You look at a lot of brands, and everyone wants you to save the world right now. And you have to ask: is that, we sell a water bottle? I don't know. I don't know where our role in saving the world is now. It is in sustainability, and we care about the places we fish, we care about the places we snowboard, we care about the places we hunt, and we want to protect the wild. So making a water bottle that will never see the landfill is pretty great.
Absolutely.
For sustainability. We didn't start the business saying, we should be a sustainability solution to the world and save the world. We found our footing. We're not, and that's where we are. We're not anywhere else. We're not trying to solve the world's problems as a cooler company. And I think that's important, because lots of brands are in lots of places, they're not there wholeheartedly. Yep. And people smell that a mile off. You have to be deep within a community. I'm talking, we're in communities for 7 years before we start talking about communities. That's a hell of a commitment. Financial, time, resource. Good luck knocking us out of that community when we're there or when we say something. And people are like, no, they're absolutely there. These guys, if they're saying it, they're committed to it. So again, it's cultural moments frustrate me, I think, because if they're not relevant, then get the hell out of there.
Yeah, and we're a lot of our clients right now are asking what to do with the position with the war in Ukraine. And that's a cultural moment that we never thought we would be dealing with, but it's what's your stance, and are you really a part of this? Because don't go in and say, you're going to be here and you're going to be here for the war, and if you're not going to be, actually closing all of your McDonald's restaurants in Russia, it's not enough to say we don't believe in this. You have to deliver on that statement.
I think the other thing I'd ask is, do you have to talk about it?
Yep.
Yeah. If you don't
Are you
have a
doing
place,
it to
why
talk
bother?
about it? So, for example, I don't know, we have a great partner in Andreas who does the World Kitchen, who's currently in Poland right now cooking for everyone. And, whatever he needs, he gets from Yeti. Do we talk about it? Do we have to? Should we? Is that the right reason to do it? Isn't it better that when he gets asked about it and he's like, when I'm really in a jam, I call these guys, and they're always there for me. They're great partners. That's the marketing I want. I don't want to have to post him on the front lines with a Yeti.
Yeah.
That's not why you do it. And then it's about exactly that. How deep are you in that space? We're lucky that a lot of the military and the SEALs, they love Yeti, and they will buy it and take it because they trust it. And that's great. Man, that's awesome for us. But we're not going to tell the world that. It's just great they do it. And that's the sweet spot.
And again, that's authentic, and I think that's a real cornerstone to your success. All right, so I have to ask this. My DNA as a kind of digital transformative guy. You talked a lot about community. You talked a lot about cult following, in a good way, not cults.
It is close to Waco.
A lot of where that lives now today is online. It's in social media. So I can't even quote different demos and how much time they're spending, in those environments. So I'm curious, what is your strategy to connect with those communities that are spending time in the digital world? How do you get products to them in the digital world? And I think it's a pretty standard question for quote unquote future-proofing your business, but then also continuing to cultivate those relationships because they're spending a lot of time there.
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I think the pandemic pushed a lot of people into the outdoors, which was I guess a side effect we never really saw coming. People were exploring their national parks, they were exploring their backyards, they were exploring areas that they probably hadn't in a while, which was fascinating for us to observe. The other thing we observed was, I think, a big D2C purchasing online movement.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is now the norm. For sure. So what we really focused on during the pandemic was, I think we make great content. We're a real content machine. Was really just putting that out there in the places they are, and not being too specific, but definitely people wanted our content during the pandemic when they were locked up. Mm-hmm. Fantasizing about getting to the outdoors and all the things they could plan for. So we really put a focus on that content because we just want to encourage more people to the outdoors. That's our goal. There are other brands in the outdoor space that are one human climbing Everest. That's not really us. We are, let's go fish, let's have a good time. You've never done that before, that's okay. Come with us. We'll show you how it's done. Have fun. So that's our focus. How do we get more people into the outdoors? And it's quite funny because digital is counter to that, or the metaverse is counter to that.
Yep, yeah.
When it comes to that technology, we're not at the forefront of it, but we do look at it as in, how is there a way to encourage people into the outdoors by using it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And is there tools that help you get outside and enjoy it? Because it's a pretty intimidating place. Many people go, well, what's my first step to going on a hike? Like, how do I smoke a brisket? How do you help people with that? And that is through technology.
Absolutely.
But when you're out in the outdoors, it's the opposite. And so there's a place for technology and there's a place to put it away.
Yeah, yeah. So, Robin, same question for you. Cultivating your communities across your multiple brands, and then maybe making their lives a little bit easier by, simplified e-commerce experiences. How are you seeing brands evolve into, we'll call it the real to digital world? And I saw so much of that, with COVID, like Paulie said. I mean, think about all of our meetings. They were all on Zoom. My kids, they play Roblox and talk to their friends, and and buy stuff through that. But that's their Zoom, is like these little metaverses and whatnot. So, would love your take on how you see that evolving.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it is experimentation, right? And it's what we were talking about, and it's being authentic and having those authentic communities within the metaverse. And we're working with a lot of brands on their metaverse strategy. And I would just say two things, like, make sure there's a strategy behind it and not a tactic, and then also go through that scenario-based planning that we were talking about. So with Chipotle, we set up on Burrito Day a Chipotle store, right, in the metaverse, and we broke roadblocks, right? And it was something that was, funny for a minute, and then it went on for a day. And then on day 2, we're like, all of the mothers in America are literally going to start hating, Chipotle because Roblox is no longer working, And so I think it really just depends on your brand, right? But it is all about, like, what does your community look like? How are you being authentic? Are you experimenting? Have we done the scenario-based planning? And then really also setting up metrics, right? And it goes back to what we were talking about, spending money and agencies and doing cool shit and awards and all of that stuff. Like, is this a tactic? Is it a strategy? What is the ROI on it? And what is this really going to do for your consumers and your community?
Yeah. I've been there on that seat as well, so I get it. Guys, thank you so much. We're just about out of time. I want to leave a few minutes in case the crowd has any questions. So, Robin, Paulie, you guys are awesome. Thank you very, very much. A round of applause for these guys, please. And I will MC any questions and direct them to whomever anyone would like. I think we have a couple of minutes. In the back, number 1.
Okay, I have a quick question. Moving off of digital, I get catalogs in my mailbox and I throw them out before I go up to my kitchen. But the Yeti catalog goes up there.
Thank you, sir.
Read it like a magazine on the imagery. That's old school.
Yeah.
How does that fit in?
Yes. So thank you. He's not a plant. I've never seen that gentleman before, I promise. No, it's a big part of it. We're not interested in selling you a product if you're not interested in our way of life, right? So the magazine, it's got all our products in there, but we really want to tell you the stories that we experience every day, and by virtue, you understand the story, you understand where the product lives, right? I don't treat our customers like idiots. You understand a great story that you engage with, and that way of life is exciting. You might have never ranched in your life before, but you read this story and you're like, that sounds kind of fun, doesn't it? And you understand that that's where the product lives, and these are the people that we like to talk about, and these are the characters we think should be, explored. And if that's fun and entertaining and interesting to you, then our product's going to find a way into your life. Whether you're in the Hamptons or whether you are in Alabama, people find a way for Yeti to be relevant in their life, but we don't pander to different audiences. This is who we are, and if that's interesting to you, fantastic. We couldn't be happier. But it's not vice versa, right? It's come to us and get in the tent as opposed to going the other way. And that's why our, much to the chagrin of my CFO, many of the pages of that magazine are pictures and stories. And we get there in the end with the sale.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep taking questions till we get kicked off. So, are there any others? Oh, there's got to be something. There's a lot of knowledge up here.
Sorry, I'll just say, it's funny when you were talking. In the beginning, I was just saying, what sells this product is the product.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned it. So I'm curious as to what might be in development or what might be coming or what iterations of new stuff you guys are looking at.
Innovation. What do you got?
Tough. I probably can't say much, to be honest.
Robin had me scratch that question.
Probably can't say much. Well, I'll guarantee you it'll keep things cold and keep things hot. How about that? And there'll probably be real world stuff you can touch.
Awesome. Any other questions for Paulie or for Robin? Robin represents a lot of awesome brands.
Customers that ask for the Yeti product, and I've been around, my friends are all in, all the other brands out there. Both outdoors people and indoors people, but it seems to be a product that a little bit on trend, in their minds, but they trust the product to work.
Yeah.
And it's going to last.
Hey,
You know,
I am
that's why they asked me to say, let's call Yeti, let's get it.
Yeah.
Let's collaborate.
I am absolutely not good enough at marketing or advertising to make a bad product good. I can never do that, right? And that will only let down a customer. I do a great campaign for a crappy product. It's counterintuitive. You're like, oh, I thought this thing would be better. So part of my learnings in life is work for a great product you believe in, because it makes your job a lot easier. But to your point, we're not a fad, and we don't want to be. The brand isn't. No, that's right.
They trust the product.
That's right.
They trust the product's going to work for what they need.
That's right, and it's really trying to resist that fad and being true to who we are, so that more good people like you keep come knocking. Yeah.
All right, I got the wrap-up sign, so if there's any questions for any of us after, we'll be hanging out for a minute. And thank you very much, guys.